today. What's going on here? Let's see. That's odd. "29th of May. Okay.
Several days later.
Seriously? Again? Well, I guess this is a thing, so let's talk about it.
Now get ready. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ryan Ride Mechanic channel. How the heck are you doing today? Today I wanted to talk just a little bit about the infamous Hyperia out there at Thorpe Park. Now this is not my normal video, as a lot of you may recognize. It's kind of a little one-off, I tend to do little one-off videos for breakdowns and odd things like that, which this is pretty much one of them. So let me jump right into it and let's talk about what's going on really quick. So out at Thorpe Park, I first got the notification out on the social media, out on my Instagram page, that was basically, they said that the ride's going to be down. Well, here's what it says. "Due to unforeseen circumstances, we are unable to open Hyperia between Sunday the 26th to Wednesday the 29th of May. We will update our ride availability page with the latest information regarding the opening of Hyperia beyond the 29th of May. We apologize for the disappointment this will cause, and we are working hard to reopen Hyperia as soon as possible, and we will keep people updated via our website and social media." Okay, so the ride's going to be down until the 29th, right? So I was like, okay, that's cool. It just opened up. I understand they just built it. They just tested it, all that other stuff. It just went through its media day. They just opened it up, and now it's down. But they put a date on there, 29th. It's like, oh, okay, that's really cool. I know Thorpe Park is really good at that sort of stuff. They're really good at being very transparent with their guests and telling them exactly what's going on, but people still wonder. That's one of the reasons why you're here, right? People still wonder. They're like, but what's actually happening in the background? So we just let it sit. I didn't feel a need to do a video or anything about it because it's cool. Rides break down all the time. Yeah, sure, it breaks down, and then they'll get it back up and running. It's no big deal. So I sat there, and then suddenly another one pops up a little while later, and it says this. "As you may have already seen, Hyperia is currently unavailable. Despite our best efforts, we are unable to commit to the reopening Hyperia before Saturday the 8th of June. We will continue to do everything in our power to open the ride early and will ensure all the latest updates are provided via our socials and website. We are really sorry for the disappointment we know this will cause." Okay, so this time they came out and said that they're unable to commit to the opening before June 8th. Now, in the background, I've also been getting a lot of emails. A lot of you have been emailing me. Thank you very much. I do appreciate those. For those of you that don't know, my email is ryantheridemechanic@yahoo.com. But I've been getting lots of email, and I got a couple pictures. Actually, the pictures and stuff that I've gotten is nothing more than what's already out there. I watch everybody else's videos. I watch updates and stuff like that too, because I think everybody has their own little piece of the puzzle, right? So I do watch everyone's videos and see what's going on out there. But there's nothing really, I get no unusual information. I have no real behind the scenes information that is exact with this particular one. So knowing that, I wanted to look at and say, okay, well, what are they doing? I said, okay, well, they got cranes back on site, or a crane back on site. I'm like, okay. So it's something big. It's something heavy. And I'm like, all right. And then I see pictures of engineers, mechanics, whatever you want to call it, up on the crown of the lift hill. Okay. So the lift hill on Hyperia is not an uncommon lift hill. It's a chain, and it's got drive sprockets, idler sprockets, a head, tail, that sort of stuff. It does just like a lot of RMC coasters that we're used to seeing, where the chain crowns up and over the top and it gets really curved, and then they did a straight line across, so they bridged that arch, and then they followed the lift hill back down with the chain. Not an uncommon design, happens all the time. So to do that, where the chain comes up and over, you need the head sprocket up there. That's where the chain finally returns backwards. And then the chain goes straight along that archway until it gets back to the lift hill right here. And then it needs an idler sprocket. That way the chain can change direction and go back down. Now, a lot of the pictures and a lot of the videos I've been seeing from everyone out there, I've been seeing lots of maintenance workers or engineers, whatever you want to call it, right around those two sprocket areas. So I'm putting the pieces of the puzzle together here, just in my head. Again, I have no outside information, or I should say inside information. And a big crane showed up. Okay, so what does that all mean? Well, it's not uncommon to pull the lift motor off with a crane because they're big and heavy. That could have broken right when the ride opened up, yes. It's kind of unusual failure for a lift motor to go out, absolutely. Possible, yes. I've burnt up lift motors myself. We had that was a floorless coaster. And inside the lift drive, we had just a simple rectification circuit go bad. And instead of putting the 2.5 amps out to the field to keep it warm on the motor, it put the full 10 amps out on the field, which it could handle if the blowers on the motor were on and cooling it down. But because the blowers were off and the ride was off, it was just on to keep moisture out of there. It melted the motor. Literally overnight, it melted the motor down. No good. But I really doubt that's what's happening here. If it was a problem with the lift motor, that crane would have been set up more towards the base. But this one's not. It's closer towards the crown. And we know we have engineers working on the top of the crown. So my speculation is that it's a problem with probably the head and the idler sprocket that's on the very top of the lift hill up there. The crane has been pulled into place, not to remove the track, although I'm sure that's an option, but it's to pull those sprockets out of there. I believe both the head sprocket at the very top and the idler sprocket just a little ways back. Now, when the crane shows up, they could get a really big crane, because, they just had everyone there to put this ride together. Everything is still fresh. So a lot of times on these projects, when something big happens after the project is up and running, it's not that bad to call the people who put it all together and did everything back, because it's all fresh in everyone's head. It's like, yeah, we just did all this. This was this, this was that. And I'm sure the thought was there when they're talking about replacing those two idlers, or the idler and the head sprocket. They said, hey, what if we got the big crane back out there and we just took that top section of track, the part that was crowned off? What happens if we just took that off and set it back down and we can pull the sprockets out on the ground? Or what happens if we just pulled the sprockets out up there? What's the steps to do both of those? Because I feel the problem is in the sprockets. I've dealt with sprockets myself that ran into heat treating problems. When sprockets are made, you have the outside of them that the chain actually runs on. That part is heat treated, and it's heat treated about 20 millimeters into the surface. But sometimes you get dud sprockets and they don't actually treat them all the way through, and you might start wearing them down prematurely. Like it just starts biting into the steel and starts hooking all of a sudden, and it happens super quick when it does it too. The other thing it could be simply just the bearings inside the sprocket. Inside that sprocket, you have one bearing on each side, and it could be one of those two bearings have gone bad. And they said, okay, the sprocket is now, instead of straight up and down, now it's leaning. And you don't want that because it puts premature wear on the chain, starts messing up liner and everything else. So they're like, okay, we got to get in there, we got to fix that. So let's go through the two avenues of thought. The first one, in my opinion, this would be the easiest one to do, would be to take the two sprockets out and repair, replace, do whatever they need to do, put them back together. The park has already said the parts are on the way. Yes, that does mean you can buy the whole sprocket assemblies over again, or they're coming from Mock Rides or whoever it was, and you could say, okay, we got these brand new, they're coming, we already put bearings in them and everything is turnkey, ready to go once they get there. Do they have that stuff sitting on the shelf? Sometimes, but most of the time they don't. They have to cut it, weld it together, and heat treat it. That process doesn't take too long, but it's not just like a weekend-long project. It takes longer than that to do all the heat treating. So what would I do to prep out there? So what I have to do is go up on the crown of lift hill, and I have to take the chain and tie it off in both directions so the chain can't go anywhere. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up on the crown, and I'm going to, right dead center between those two sprockets, I'm going to break the chain up there, and then I'm going to roll it backwards. Now I'm going to pin it on both sides so it can't go too far. But then I'm going to roll that chain backwards and pull it down a little bit on each side, and that opens up that crown. Because what I need that chain off of those two sprockets to do anything. So I got to pull the chain down, roughly, right, let me guesstimate here. It's in meters. I'm not great with meters. The visual representation of how far it is, honestly, not that great. But I'm going to guess that's probably about, from the crown, it's probably about 12, 15 meters off of each side that I have to open up to expose those sprockets. And then once that's done, I have to go over there and loosen up everything. I have to remove shrouds, and I have to get it to where those sprockets are ready to come off. But not too much, because everything has to still kind of stay intact there. And then the last step is the crane comes over and gets overhead, and we drop a cable straight down and lasso that sprocket, and then undo everything the rest of the way. They pick the sprocket up and goes up and out. And then they do that with the other one too. Pick it up, it goes up and out. And then for simplicity's sake, so it's not a visual eyesore, I would take the chain and just pull them back together. And they don't have to be full bore reconnected, but I'm at least going to cinch them there to where it doesn't look like anything's out of the ordinary. That is something I like to do. I don't like to... Some parks will literally just let the chain hang off the end and just be like, it's fine. I don't like doing that. I like things to be nice and neat, and visually when people come in, take pictures, because there's all sorts of people on YouTube that just blow up over this stuff. Understandably so. But I like to leave everything nice, neat, and packaged together to where it doesn't visually look like we did anything. But right now, as the ride sits, this exact moment, there could be no idler sprockets up there, no idlers, no head sprocket, nothing. It could just be empty, but it will look like it's together because this stuff is a lot of times done overnight. Okay, so that's one way to go about it. And then they get the new sprockets and stuff, pull the chain back out again, just come along it back down. You could use electric winches, make it really easy, and then put those guys back in there, put the pins and everything back inside, pull it back up. Then the next time that chain is joined, it is officially joined, cinch closed to where the ride's ready to roll again after that. The other option, this one's much more complicated. So it involves the first thing, which would be to take the chain down, but you to pull it back to 15 meters on the one side, and then the other side you would have to pull out a good 20 to 30 meters of chain back out, because now we have to clear that crown. And then so for this part, we talk about taking the top piece of track off. I see the picture floating around out there, a crane with the straps on that very top piece of track. There's proximity sensors and stuff up there. So you're talking about you had to unwire sensors and unwire those and bring them back down. You had to pull the chain out. You had to disconnect the liner. A lot of time the liner doesn't stop and start right where the joint is. The joint of the track is made first, and then the chain liner is laid on top of that joint, so it covers it up. It's one of the things that helps seal it. So you'd have to pull liner out of it too. Then you have to do, whenever you take a piece of track out, which is very rare on a lot of coasters, but whenever you take a piece of track out, you have to do what's called relaxing the joint. Because right now those joints are under a lot of tension in every direction. And by that I mean just the steel structure being tightened up and things being twisted and turned. It's like holding a piece of spring steel under tension. Well, if you let go of one end, it goes boing. Don't want that. So what you have to do is you actually have to go back 1 to 2 sections backwards. This was the next section down on the lift hill, and probably the next section or 2 down on the drop. And then you have to take the supporting pillars and you have to loosen everything. So everything becomes loose, and that tension that was being held in that track has now relaxed, and there's no tension in there. And then at that point, they can unbolt both sides and pull that top piece of track off. Like, why would you do that? Because then at that point, you could actually bring it off and set it down and work on those assemblies on the ground, where it might be much easier for people to work. Doing that sort of thing overnight, really doubt it. If they were going to do something like that, we probably would have seen it removed by now. I would imagine it'd be off for at least a day or 2 and then put back on. So I really doubt that's what they're doing. But this is my guesstimation. No, nothing else, but it looks like they're having some sort of trouble with, I'm guessing the main one is that first idler sprocket that actually sends the chain backwards down the hill again. They're having trouble with that one sprocket, and then they're probably going to do the other head sprocket at the same time. Now, if it was a heat treating issue, that would also call into question the sprockets at the base of the lift hill. So if those sprockets are also messed up, then they would have to do the same thing to those down there. I'm not sure. Never been to the park. It's not my park. I don't know. Is that something that somebody has visibility on? Like, during this time, have we seen the base of the lift hill? Has there been any work going on down there? Again, one of the weird things about these chains and sprockets and stuff is you could do a ton of work to them and they won't look any different from the outside. That makes these things a little hard for us to speculate and see what's going on the inside. But the good news is that Thorpe Park seems to be right on top of it, and they're letting everybody know the dates when they can. Sure, yeah, it gets pushed back. That's understandable. That sort of stuff happens. Again, this is a new ride. It's a brand new ride. These things happen. You could buy a brand new car from the dealership. It'll roll off the lot and you might have a bad engine in that brand new car. These things happen. No big deal. Good job to Thorpe Park for letting everybody know, being very transparent with it. That's an awesome thing. I would love to see more parks do that, but the truth is most parks don't. So anyways, quick video. I do appreciate if you're watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, do all that stuff down there. It helps me out. And stay off the air gates. Bye.